All right. Well, first I want to say thank you for that, because it can be really hard to talk about yourself. So I don't know if you guys know this. We don't usually kind of prep with the speaker. We say, it's your floor, it's your world. You talk about what you want to talk about. Here's the theme. Take it wherever you want. And so I'm really appreciative of you talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's really, really hard to do. I like Creative Mornings because I get to talk to other people. I would never talk about myself. And I know that's because it's hard. It's really hard, and you are candid, and you are vulnerable.
Well,
and I
Jamie,
really appreciate that.
I'm a narcissist.
No, you are not. You're
So, no.
I really appreciate it. Because you have to be very vulnerable. You talked about mental health. You talked about anxiety. You talked about your own job and walking in a room and your family and parents. And so thank you for where you went. Thank you for that.
No problem. I appreciate the opportunity. Me and my wife, she's my safe space. We have conversations like this all the time. And so, what better opportunity to maybe share how I feel about some things that maybe people don't know. Because I don't really deal too much in perception and what people think and feel. But I know that people may wonder why, when I'm out in social spaces, why is he like that? Or how come he don't like to talk on the phone? Why he always ended meetings early and this, that, and the third? And there's just so much more to who I am than what people see on the news. And so just appreciate the opportunity.
And it can be hard to ask yourself, who am I? Who am I besides my name, besides my job? And so that also really spoke to me, for us to all think about, who am I? So I have a couple questions, but I'm only going to ask a few, and then I want this to be a conversation with you, and we'll go for about 15 minutes. So you talked about purpose partners, and I wrote that down. Mm-hmm. How did you get there? Is that something you always had? And I also really appreciate you talking about your family and your wife, and so that idea of purpose partners. Dive into that a little bit.
Well, that's something that was just developed in my marriage with Sierra, something we talk about. Purpose is kind of what drew us together, but then it's also the common thread within our marriage, and we've been through different levels of that. What does it look like to be purpose partners? And what that means to us, by the way, is just living in God's purpose, but then how can we impact community in the world together? And so when people use the phrase power couple, I respect it. I understand where it comes from, but I think the connotation to that is more of, physical beauty, or maybe how much money you have together, or whatever. But to us, it's a lot deeper. We're always thinking, how can we make an impact together? And early on, we was trying to force it. We was trying to figure it out, and now it's just, we're letting God lead, and it happens organically. So,
well, and then
it's my baby.
You also talked about when you were out, and the non-work time, just having your own time. And so that felt very reflective of realizing that's what you guys needed to have to not be, just to be out and have your moment. So I really appreciated that as well.
Yeah.
All right. You kind of talked about this, but what is the biggest misconception about your job right now?
Which job?
So go through all of your, let's start with your one Lexington director job.
Lexington.
Yeah. Is there a big misconception?
I ain't nobody's savior. There's one savior. That's Lord Jesus Christ. It ain't me. So a lot of people looking at me to stop something or to fix something. Man, I've been there 7 months, 6 months. I think the misconception, and a lot of it I brought on myself, to be honest, because I think in a rogue way that I've moved, I'm just kind of a person where I try to get people together to rock with me, or I see something that needs to be done, and I'm like, all right, I ain't got time for this red tape and a million meetings, think tank, let's go, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people are used to that. But in this job, it is a lot different. It's something I learned from Laura. She had the job previous to me, is that you really got to be a connector. You got to connect people. It's going to take everybody. And so I've kind of had to remove out of this kind of programmatic mind state of going out and doing things and really trying to connect people and bring people together. And I just want the community to understand that. We're talking about something deeply embedded within our community. violence reduction. There's some systemic things, and so it's going to take some time. But it's going to take people to coming together.
So that's how you wanted to move and just go has changed. That's been a misconception of your.
Yeah, I think I realized it early on, but I'm not sure the
Others.
community, really got that. And so but then also trying to be transparent in what the job entails so they know. And so it still ultimately is up to me to, I'm not putting that onus on anybody, but I just got to communicate better. And this is new, I've never had a job quite like this.
Well, and so any of your other causes or of being a parent or father or husband, is there another misconception?
I'm very emotional. My wife knows that. Most people see me as stoic or he's a rock, and nah, bro. I'll, see a movie and cry, and you know what I mean? And I've been through so much, so whatever shield I had is broken. Yeah. So I'm a lot more emotional now. I dang near start crying while I was talking a minute ago. So I'd have never did that 5 years ago. But when you go through a lot and you just become more vulnerable, and so I think just letting people know I take everything to heart. And me and my wife were talking about that. Yes, everything is personal to me. Why do you hate me? Like, no, they don't hate you, babe. They got a job, so they can't come at noon and help you bag coats. It's like, no, they don't like me. What did I, And so super emotional. And so I would say that, but then also I enjoy family time, downtime. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're peeling back the layer to who you are, peeling back that invisible. So thank you for being vulnerable this morning.
Appreciate it.
What other questions do you guys have? Any questions from the audience? All right here, Mr. Anthony.
My brother.
What's going on, man?
Much love and thanks for opening yourself up to us.
Appreciate it.
We've had a lot of conversations about social media and the negative effects. And you know me, I have a Facebook, but I don't do Facebook.
Right.
You have to text me to share your post.
That's right.
Can you speak to the positives of the Facebook, of the social media, for a person like me? Like I said, I share pictures of my kids.
Right.
That's it. But I know you have a heavy presence on social media.
Sure.
Just speak to some of the positives of it.
Sure. And did everybody hear that? And so I will say this, man, when I was first coming up as a musician, but then as an activist, all of those kind of presets that kind of, or privilege, that kind of gives you a head start, I ain't had none of that. No cosign, didn't come from money, no college degree, didn't belong to a frat, wasn't in the cool circle. And so for me, and I think this can be this way for a lot of people, especially startup entrepreneurs, businesses, churches, is that social media gave me a platform to tell people my story. And I was able to use social media to create some of the opportunities that I got. To be honest, if it wasn't for social media, I'm probably not doing half the stuff I'm doing now. And so I learned, because I didn't like it either, but I learned to use it to my advantage. And I think a lot of people can do that. It is a conduit. It is a platform to communicate to the people that you want to communicate to. And so you just have to make that intentional, conscious choice to use it as such. And I dealt with a lot early on. Man, Devine posting too much. Man, he don't stop tagging me. I don't want to listen to your music, right? But you got to deal with that, because that's with anything, right? And so you deal with that and you look at the positives of that. And so I think social media, if used the right way, can be great. You look at, the Black Lives Matter movement and other huge movements, Me Too movement. A lot of those were kickstarted on social media, and they're now changing society in the way that we view things and think. So I definitely think it could be positive. It's all up to us and how we use it. Question?
Dan.
I really appreciate you putting yourself out there, and so much of what you said really kind of hit me very personally. I think it can be so hard to have kind of a personal brand, the way that people see you. How do you know, do you have a struggle with turning it off, turning that public persona off, shifting to the private, and what do you do? What are some good self-care tips?
No. Sierra will tell you. Part of it is, I mentioned earlier, I struggle with this stuff. It is literally God saying, I'm calling you to do, and so I do. It's no disrespect to nobody. I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Sierra will tell you, I'm content with a bag of gummy bears, a Pepsi, and just let me watch Netflix all day, not talk to nobody. And so it's really easy for me to turn it off. But then the other thing, Dan, we've had some good conversations in the past, is I'm always trying to perfect myself. I don't want to be fake either. You know what I mean? And so I try to fine tune myself, my character, to try to be the same person on and off stage. I might not be as vocal, but I don't never want to be BSing you either. I don't never want to be fake with it. And that was one of the reasons I didn't want to do this originally, because I didn't know if I could do it and be authentic. And so, but to answer your question, it ain't nothing for me to to go in the cave. You hear me? Ooh, and she'll tell you that. Like, it's not an issue. I'm not at home like, I'm Devine Carama. Where's my crown? Nah, I ain't nobody in my house. You hear me? I ain't saying that, but you know, I ain't King Tucky at the crib, man.
So is that your self-care? You go home and do family time and kind of put yourself
Yes.
Okay.
I tell my wife all the time. Early in our marriage, she thought that I was fed by the outside stuff. She thought that meant a lot to me. All the comments and some, that don't, it means something, don't get me wrong. But what I want is love at home. You know, family is what it's, especially when you lose family. It's just different. Like when I come home and get that love from my family, that's what centers me and gets me all the way together. So.
Such just wise words, listening to you kind of process this of, that's what centers me, and I know that's what centers me, so I appreciate that. I think I saw one back here, and then we'll go to Laura, and then we'll go over here. So back here.
I really appreciated your whole presentation, and I enjoyed what you said about the authenticity of 90s hip-hop. We don't get that authenticity with social media. Someone that's around town, around Lexington so much, what's kind of the last thing around our city that rang authentic and true to you?
Okay. Al's Bar. People are just places. Tell me what you want.
It can be anything. Is it an organization that we don't know about, something happening around town that you've experienced, that anything like that, yeah. But yes, Al's Bar, I agree.
Anytime you can go to Al's Bar, the Borough, anytime you can go and see an indie band or artist play. Because us as indie artists, we are not shackled by the expectations of a label. So what you get is authentic art. So really any artist, especially independent artists, is where you get some authenticity. I'll leave it there. I don't want to say any other names and forget. So I'll stick to the art, independent art, all day.
All right here.
Devine.
Hey, friend.
Hey, buddy. So I look at this picture up here, and I would just love for you to take an opportunity to tell the audience about how oftentimes many of those men are invisible, but how
Yeah.
you are working hard to bring them to the table in many unique and meaningful ways.
Yeah. So this picture was a convening that we did for PSA, Black Men of Lexington United Against Gun Violence. And so obviously, this was a great photo op, but we've really moved into some action items, so I want to say that. But in this picture, you got a little bit of everything. You might look at that and you might think, was it a Million Man March? It was a bunch of black men together? But there's doctors and lawyers and preachers and pastors in that picture. There's young people in that picture, but also in that picture are victims of systemic oppression. And again, we don't have time to go into that deeply, but formerly incarcerated, those that used to deal with addiction, those that have been in the streets. And oftentimes we leave those people away from the table when we're trying to figure out how to cure something or fix something or make it better. And wouldn't it make sense to have those who have dealt with some challenges and maybe have been through the very things that we're trying to fix be a part of the solution? But oftentimes in society, we leave them out. And a lot of times it's our men of color. And so we're being intentional. We still want everybody to be a part of it, but we're being real intentional about reaching out to some of these brothers who've been disenfranchised at every step. And I know what it feels like. And I say this openly. One of the reasons I started my nonprofit is because, and they're doing great things now, but I went to Big Brother, Big Sisters back in the day to be a mentor, and they rejected my application. And there were several other black men whose application got rejected, and it led them to getting into activism and starting their own nonprofit. And so Big Brothers and Big Sisters is being very intentional and doing great things now, but I say that to say we have historically been disenfranchised from things when it comes to community work. And so we're just trying to bring these brothers together. Me and Laura had an emotional meeting with some formerly incarcerated brothers that their emotion was brought to the surface because they want to help, but nobody will let them. So.
Thank you, Laura, and I'm glad you got to speak on this. I think we had one last question over here, and then we're going to wrap.
Hi there.
Hey.
We're early in our relationship. I'm just getting to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank you for helping me acknowledge in this space my own invisibility, because I'm always trying to hide that I feel that way a lot. And I want to thank you for letting us know that the urge to talk about other people doesn't help that. A lot of times we use that
That's
to
right.
overcompensate for how we're feeling.
That's right.
And so thank you for bringing that into the space, specifically for me, and I'm sure for other people that are going to hear you say this. But the question that I have for you is, in all of your work, maybe in all of my work, maybe in all of our work, how can you help us, or what do you think is the best way to use our feelings of invisibility to be visible, to encourage that uniquity? Because that is what I believe, that's what's going to save us.
Such a great question. Thank you. One thing that I love about my wife that I struggled with early in our marriage, and I still struggle with it, is that she has a way, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. So I'm the type of person that, like, I worry about other people's sensibilities too much, to the point I put it above my own. And so if there's like this minor thing that my wife does that gets on my nerves that is like huge to me, but it's like really small, I probably ain't gonna say nothing because I don't want to feel like a jerk. But my wife is the opposite. My wife, and she doesn't do it in a jerkish way, but she's very assertive in saying, hey, I don't like this. And I feel away for a second, but then I'm like, dang, I respect that. I say that to say this. We just got to talk about it more. We got to call people out. When we feel a certain way and we feel slighted, we got to speak on it. We don't have to be jerkish. We don't have to be angry. But I think we got to be assertive because it's the only way we're going to change the norm. And so I think spaces like this are cool, but I think it's even the small one-on-one things. When I would go into certain spaces in education or in activism, I would walk in and sometimes people be like, so you gonna rap for us? And that devalued all of the other things that God was calling me to do. I'm not here to rap. What you talking about? You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't say anything because I didn't want to come off as angry, which us as black men and women, we have to battle that too. We don't want to be the angry black man or angry black woman. And so I've just gotten more comfortable in saying, no, I'm not going to rap today because I'm not here as a rapper. But I am here to help your students who's, has several referrals and looking at expulsion, which is the reason you brought me here. You know what I mean? So, but moving along. And so in a polite way, just letting people know, whenever we're feeling invisible, wave our hand, hit the table. I'm in here. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the best advice I could give. And I'm getting better at doing that because I get marginalized a lot, especially having a job in the mayor's office. He ain't nothing but a rap artist. He ain't, no, I'm more than that. And so, and it's okay for me to say so.
Well, let's give one more round of applause for Devine.
Thank you.
You never really know where these talks were going to go, but I absolutely loved how vulnerable you were and how authentic you were, and diving into yourself as well as talking about your causes. So I really appreciated that. And I also want to take a moment to say we are in the beautiful Pam Miller Downtown Arts Center. If you have
Yes.
never been here, welcome to the Pam Miller Downtown Arts Center. There is an amazing gallery upstairs, so feel free to check out that gallery on your way out, as well as the shop is open if you need some last-minute Christmas gifts. This is an amazing city facility, if you didn't know this, run by our Parks and Recreation. So thank you for them as a partner. Yes, we'll clap for the Pam Miller Downtown Arts Center. It's a beautiful space. And also, thank you for coming this morning. We know there's a lot going on. Thank you for all of us who are watching us on the video. And we like to end with saying everyone is welcome and everyone is creative. Thank you for being here today.